Liz Truss is chosen as the new Conservative leader and will succeed Boris Johnson as our next Prime Minister. She won the backing of Conservative Party members, beating Rishi Sunak with 57% of the vote, and says she will govern as a Conservative and deliver what was promised to voters.
I will deliver a bold plan to cut taxes and grow our economy. I will deliver on the energy crisis, dealing with people's energy bills, but also dealing with the long-term issues we have on energy supply.
The cost of living dominates her in-tray when she becomes Prime Minister officially tomorrow. We hear from voters about their main concerns.
I really think that she needs to sort out this energy crisis. I mean, us low-paid workers, we're having real problems.
I think she'll do as good a job as she can. I'm sure she will, but there's a terrible mess, isn't there, everywhere.
Labour says she'll have to show she can meet the challenges. We'll have all the latest reaction to Liz Truss's win and take a closer look at the issues confronting her.
And the other main stories this lunchtime. Police in Canada hunt two men suspected of a mass killing in which 10 people were stabbed to death and 15 others injured. And from today, millions of people in England and Wales will be invited for their autumn COVID booster vaccine.
Later in the hour on the BBC News channel, we'll have all the latest reports, results, interviews and features from the BBC Sports Centre.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the BBC News at 1 live from Downing Street. Because this, from tomorrow, will be home to Liz Truss, who will be Britain's next Prime Minister after she was declared the winner of the Conservative Party leadership contest. She beat her rival Rishi Sunak by more than 20,000 votes. That means she got 57% of the vote of Conservative Party members. She says she campaigned as a Conservative and will govern as a Conservative and deliver a bold plan to cut taxes and grow the economy. She also promised to deliver on help with energy bills and on the NHS. Well, tomorrow, Liz Truss will travel to meet the Queen at Balmoral in Aberdeenshire to complete the transfer of power. And that will bring Boris Johnson's 3-year premiership to an end. Well, our first report this lunchtime is from our political correspondent, Helen Catt, who's been following the day's developments.
Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak together as candidates for the last time. The votes of Conservative members already counted, the winner already decided. To a packed hall in Westminster, the man overseeing the contest announced the final result.
Rishi Sunak, 60,399. Liz Truss, 81,326. Therefore, I give notice that Liz Truss is elected as the leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party. We'll come up on stage.
For Liz Truss, a victory speech.
During this leadership campaign, I campaigned as a Conservative and I will govern as a Conservative. And my friends, we need to show that we will deliver over the next 2 years. I will deliver a bold plan to cut taxes and grow our economy. I will deliver on the energy crisis, dealing with people's energy bills, but also dealing with the long-term issues we have on energy supply.
The former Chancellor Rishi Sunak had led the initial ballot of Conservative MPs. His defeat when voting was widened out to the members had been predicted, but the result was closer than some had expected. Liz Truss now has the top job in her party, which she will need to reunite after a bruising contest. And tomorrow she moves in here, taking the top job in the country, with a to-do list arguably more challenging than any recent Prime Minister. As the Labour leader on a visit to a school in North London was quick to point out.
She needs to deal with the cost of living crisis, she needs to deal with the fact the NHS is on its knees, and she needs to deal with the collapse of law and order. And there can be no justification for not freezing energy prices. So she needs to show that she actually understands and can meet the challenges that are there after 12 years of failure of this Tory government.
There's been criticism of how long this contest has taken to appoint a new leader. Nominations among MPs opened 8 weeks ago, and critics say that's left a vacuum at a crucial time when people are facing soaring costs. Liz Truss has promised she will move quickly and will set out her plans for help within days of taking office. She may be enjoying this moment, but the hard work starts now. Helen Catt, BBC News, Westminster.
Well, let's talk first of all to our political correspondent Nick Eardley, because he's at the Queen Elizabeth Conference Centre where that announcement was made just in the last half an hour or so. So, Nick, Liz Truss getting about 57% of the vote, but what an in-tray awaits her.
Yeah, absolutely, Jane. Not a landslide, but a comfortable victory for Liz Truss. She's clearly delighted, but I don't think that will last for long, because the in-tray that the new Prime Minister is going to face is among the most daunting that any Prime Minister in recent history has faced. Threats of a recession soon, inflation going up, industrial strife, a fractured party. And the issue that's going to absolutely dominate Liz Truss's mind over the next few months is that cost of living crisis. She has refused throughout this campaign to give details of what she's going to do. She talked about it in passing in that speech there, where she said she would deliver on energy bills and an energy strategy to prepare the UK for the future. But the details of what she is going to do to help the millions of families and the millions of businesses across the country who are struggling with their bills is going to be the thing that dominates, that defines the early period of her premiership. I think we're going to have to wait a couple of days yet to find out exactly what she's going to do. She'll make a speech about that probably on Thursday, outlining some plans. We know that the Treasury has been working up some ready-to-go options. Some in the energy sector, for example, are pushing for a price freeze that the government would help to pay for. But whatever Liz Truss does, the decisions she takes on energy bills are going to be the most important decision of this week, and our team will be getting to work on that immediately.
Yes, all right, Nick, thank you very much. And let's talk through some of those figures and some of the issues that Nick was touching on there. The Prime Minister in waiting, facing a really huge set of challenges. First and foremost, the cost of living crisis, of course, the energy bills that we know so much about. Let's take a look at some figures. Inflation at the moment is above 10%, and there have been forecasts that it could hit 13% this winter. Rising inflation is usually tackled by increasing interest rates, which the Bank of England has done now on 6 consecutive occasions. They now stand at 1.75%. The banks hope that will encourage people to save. But of course, it does mean that people with mortgages see their monthly payments go up in many cases. And of course, as we know, the biggest factor affecting households around the country is rising energy bills. We've been asking people in Birmingham about their main concerns.
Everything's to do with the cost of living, isn't it? Everything's gone up, nothing's coming down.
Us pensioners, we're struggling. My bills have gone double now. My electric and gas from £90 to £130 to £250.
We keep talking, do we choose to eat or heat? That is the reality. We are going to struggle. And prices are ridiculous. My bills have gone up threefold.
Everything is skyrocketing and people need to live lives and people have to cut down on essentials.
The economy and the prices of gas and electric and getting people out of poverty. I think that's the main thing to focus on right now.
Well, our business editor Simon Jack is here, and much to reflect on there, Simon. And in first of just household energy bills, domestic energy bills, what sense are we getting of what might be done on that score?
She's been on a bit of a journey, Liz Truss, on this one. If you remember, it was like prefer tax cuts to handouts. Now she's saying she's going to do something big and bold to intervene to help households. And what seems to be gaining currency is this idea that came originally from the energy companies, that you set up a super fund, loan guarantees, where the energy companies could borrow money guaranteed by the government and use that to either freeze or reduce bills before they hit some of those levels that you just highlighted there. Going to be triple this October what they were last October. Now, the energy companies think that's the only game in town to get to this, a problem this size, and officials are now warming to that idea. So that is the rough plan. Can it be done in time for October the 1st? Well, I'm told that the urgency with which he's going to lay out this plan on Thursday indicates that they do hope to get something deliverable in time for that big rise in October, but certainly in time for even bigger rises we're expecting in January.
OK, and increasingly we are hearing from businesses. They're saying, don't forget about us. It's coming through to all of us as well. What's going to be done there?
Well, businesses not protected by the energy cap, lots and lots of them are on fixed deals, many of which come up for renewal this October. So they will be exposed to the full horror of bills going up 4 times, 5 times, even 10 times in some cases. So what could they do? Well, businesses pay VAT at 20% on their energy bills, domestic only 5%. That might be an easy cut. Let's talk about some more help on business rates. Grants, very expensive up front if they want to fulfill their promises on tax cuts. So it could be that businesses are waved into this same kind of super fund. And the big attraction for the government is they think they might, because it's a guarantee, they're not actually doing the lending, be able to sort of keep it off the books, which would allow them proceed with those tax cuts and those defence spending rises they've committed to. But much less certainty about what's going to happen with business, but no less urgent if you're going to prevent the economy tipping into what could be a deep recession.
Yes. All right, Simon, thanks very much for now. Simon Jack, our business editor. So how is the announcement of the new Prime Minister going down in the nations around the UK, all facing their own specific set of issues, of course? We're going to head, first of all, to Lorna Gordon, who's in Holyrood, and Howard Griffith, who'll have the latest there at the Senedd in Cardiff. First, let's head to Chris Page in Stormont, where, Chris, of course, power sharing has yet to be re-established.
That's right, Jane. The biggest challenges for Liz Truss in Northern Ireland are intertwined and very thorny indeed. Power sharing and the protocol. There's been no devolved government here at Stormont in effect since February. That's because the unique political system in this part of the UK means a government can't be formed at all unless unionists and nationalists agree to go into a coalition. And presently the biggest unionist party, the Democratic Unionists, are refusing to do that. Their reason? The Brexit trading arrangement known as the Northern Ireland Protocol. The protocol means basically that Northern Ireland has continued to follow EU rules for goods, and therefore there are checks on some products arriving here from England, Scotland and Wales. To unionist politicians, that is an economic border within the UK, and so the DUP say they will continue to block power sharing until that trade barrier is scrapped. As Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss had been guiding legislation through Westminster, which would give ministers in London the power to override parts of the protocol and, in theory, pave the way for devolution to return. But non-unionist parties say that approach would break international law and cause even more instability. Now over to my colleague Lorna Gordon in Scotland.
Yes, well, Liz Truss went to school in Paisley, the west coast of Scotland. She's described herself as a child of the Union. On the issue of a second independence referendum, she's previously said, no, 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 that will not happen. And in fact, reports at the weekend suggest that her team are mooting a new law that would require 50% of the total electorate, not just those who vote in any possible second independence referendum, to vote in favour. So a very high bar. A bar, it has to be said, that Liz Truss didn't reach in terms of the Conservative Party electorate voting for her to become the new Prime Minister. Nicola Sturgeon's reaction to the reports of this new law is that would be gerrymandering. It would change the basic rules of democracy. In the last few minutes, Scotland's First Minister has offered her congratulations to Liz Truss. She says their political differences run deep, but that she would hope to build a good working relationship, as she has had, she says, with the last 3 Prime Ministers. She's calling on Liz Truss to freeze energy prices for people and for businesses, to increase cash support and to increase funding for public services. The two will likely meet, if past precedent is anything to go by, will meet within the next couple of weeks. Liz Truss said over the summer that Nicola Sturgeon was an attention seeker and that the best thing to do with her was ignore her. Well, that is just the cut and thrust of political campaigning, but I think it's fair to say that there will be a more muscular form of unionism ahead. Well, that's the situation here in Scotland. What about in Wales? Hal Griffiths is there for us now.
Well, as Tory leader, the big challenge for Liz Truss in Wales is to hold on to all the seats that turned from red to blue in the last general election in 2019. Boris Johnson and his message on Brexit won over a lot of Welsh voters, winning the best vote share in over a century, returning the most MPs since 1983. But a lot of those constituencies are held by very thin margins. She's only got 2 years, potentially, until the next election. Once she becomes Prime Minister, well, will she want to reset the relationship between Westminster and the Welsh Labour government? It's a fractious one at the moment. During the course of the pandemic, we heard Labour's First Minister Mark Drakeford talk about going months without speaking to Boris Johnson. Will they want a reset? Well, just at the start of the summer, things didn't look good. The UK government being accused of contempt towards devolution, threatening to overturn a Senedd law on trade union action. And during hustings here, Liz Truss described Mark Drakeford as a low-energy Jeremy Corbyn. He today has tweeted his congratulations to her, but saying now they need to work together, particularly on the cost of living crisis.
Hal, Lorna and Chris, thank you. Well, we'll all be getting to know Liz Truss over the coming weeks and months, but what do we know already about the politician who's about to be Britain's 3rd female Prime Minister? Our Deputy Political Editor, Vicky Young, has this report.
She's a grafter. She means what she says, she knows what she wants, and she gets it.
These are some of Liz Truss's most supportive friends. Activists in her Norfolk constituency have nothing but praise for their MP, the next Prime Minister.
The job is so important to her, getting done what she wants to get done.
There's no airs and graces about Liz. She's just, as you say, she's got the skin of a rhinoceros when it comes to putting up with people having a go at her, I can assure you.
Several times over the years, colleagues have predicted that Liz Truss's career was on a downward path, that she'd soon be spending more time here in Norfolk than in Westminster. But friends say she's always been underestimated, and her survival is evidence of a clever politician with a steely determination. Her political journey has taken her from a family she describes as left-wing, where she joined her parents in the campaign for unilateral nuclear disarmament, to Oxford University, where she was a Liberal Democrat and took to the conference stage to argue in favour of abolishing the monarchy.
We Liberal Democrats believe in opportunity for all. We believe in fairness and common sense.
After graduating, she joined the Conservatives, worked as an accountant and was selected to fight the safe Tory seat of South West Norfolk. But her political career was almost derailed when news emerged of an affair with an MP. She fought off attempts to oust her and was elected to Parliament in 2010. She was quickly promoted first to Education Minister. Those who worked with her back then say she was always across the detail.
One of the things that successful teams need is someone who really believes in an idea, and Liz really believes in a lot of very big ideas. When I worked for her, we called her the Minister for Maths, and this was a real focal point. She can create a team through her beliefs, through her passion, through her evangelism for important ideas.
Her first cabinet job was Environment Secretary. It was obvious, though, that some work would be needed on her presentational skills.
We import 2/3 of our cheese. That is a disgrace.
Liz.
When the Brexit referendum was called, she campaigned to stay in the EU, something she later said was wrong. Nicola Horlick, a Liberal Democrat, was part of that Remain team.
For somebody to say, you know,
I had this conviction about one thing, and the next day, actually, I was wrong about that, and I've now got a different conviction. When it seems that that's just about getting power, that really concerns me.
You don't agree with Liz Truss on lots of things. Do you think she's got any qualities that would make her a decent Prime Minister?
You've got this person who's very disciplined, very well organised, but is lacking on the communication and charisma side.
But friends say she does know how to get her message across, and her Instagram posts show her playful side. Ruder colleagues think her love of a photo opportunity betrays a superficiality. She was certainly mocked for this regal pose last Christmas. Her promotion to Foreign Secretary has given her a global platform. Some think there are less than subtle echoes of Margaret Thatcher, a comparison she loves. Liz Truss will be Britain's third female Prime Minister. Life for her, her husband and 2 daughters is about to change, and no one's underestimating the challenges that lie ahead. Vicky Young, BBC News, Westminster. Well, Boris Johnson was, of course, notable for winning over constituencies in the northeast of England, which hadn't previously voted Conservative, certainly not for many decades. So how is the imminent arrival of the new Prime Minister being greeted there? Let's go to our North of England correspondent, Fiona Trott, who's in Redcar. Fiona.
Well, if you're a stranger to this part of the world, let me introduce you to the local delicacy here, a lemon-top soft ice cream covered with a dollop there of lemon sorbet. And right now, they've been making this here for decades, but now the focus is, with all these fridges and freezers behind me, how much it's going to cost to produce one of these in the coming months. Marcus, you're the manager here. You're hearing from Liz Truss earlier. A bold plan is set to be announced on helping with energy bills. A lot about consumers. What about business people like you? What do you want to hear from her?
I'd like the cost of living to come down. I'd like energy. I'd like every tax break she can give us to keep us alive and going.
Okay, and what are your first impressions? Can she deliver that?
It'd be a very hard job. Very hard job. I'd hate to do her job, but we can only live in hope.
Okay, well, let's have a chat to you, Ingrid, because you run a local pub here in Redcar, and of course, we've been hearing a lot from pub landlords recently, haven't we, about them facing closure. What do you want to hear from Liz Truss about how to help your business?
Again, some help with the business, the energy, capping the prices of it.
And you were voted for the Conservatives the first time ever back in 2019. Of course, that's when Redcar was dubbed Blue Car, because it hasn't had a Conservative MP before in this red wall seat. Are you happy with what you have heard from Liz Truss about how to move forward and continue with levelling up here in this part of the country?
I hope she follows Boris's plan to level up, because he's done more than any Tory Prime Minister has done for this area in the past. Yes, I want to see her follow through with his promises.
Would you vote Conservative again?
Jury's out on that one. I'm waiting to see what happens. I do like our local MP, Jacob Young. He's very good for the area, and I voted for him mainly when I voted last.
OK, very briefly, I want to ask you all very briefly, do you have faith in the new Prime Minister that she will deliver what you want to make your business lives and your personal lives better, yes or no?
You have to have positivity, so absolutely, yes.
Positive from the north, yeah.
Proof's in the pudding, but we've got to be hopeful.
Okay, proof's in the pudding, as you heard there. Thank you very much for joining us. Back to you, Jane.
I'll have one of those. Fiona Trott, thank you very much indeed there in Redcar. Well, of course, today is Boris Johnson's last day, full day as Prime Minister. It is the official handover of power tomorrow. Our political correspondent Ben Wright has been looking back at his 3 years in office.
There is unlikely to be another Prime Minister quite like Boris Johnson.
I want you to know how sad I am to be giving up the best job in the world. But them's the breaks. Thank you all very much.
A premiership that was brief and chaotic, but reshaped the country. An election-winning leader who was slung out of office by his party. He took over in 2019 after Theresa May was toppled. With many MPs trying to block a no-deal Brexit, Boris Johnson soon proved his readiness to rip up conventions by suspending Parliament, a move criticised by the Supreme Court.
The decision to advise Her Majesty to prorogue Parliament was unlawful.
Weeks later, he gambled on a general election, winning the Tories their biggest majority for 30 years.
We did it! We did it. We pulled it off, didn't we?
The man who had led the Brexit campaign now had the votes in Parliament to leave the EU. Brexit deeply split the country. Its legacy will be felt and disputed for years. For this reason alone, Boris Johnson will go down in history as a Prime Minister of consequence. And then came this, the first pandemic for a century.
I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
COVID dominated his premiership. Lockdowns. A vaccine, but many lives lost. An inquiry will now examine what the government got right and wrong.
Have you lied to the public, Prime Minister?
Clearly wrong was the lockdown-breaking culture in Downing Street during COVID. The Partygate scandal engulfed Boris Johnson. There were allegations, denials, a police investigation and fines, including one for the Prime Minister himself.
I take full responsibility for everything that took place on my watch.
His integrity was under question, his authority damaged.
I can announce that the Parliamentary Party does have confidence.
Boris Johnson survived a confidence vote in June, but Number 10's handling of a sexual harassment allegation involving a Tory MP a month later was the final straw.
How are you? Nice to see you.
Boris Johnson's muscular support for Ukraine following Russia's invasion is an important part of his legacy too. His successor will now have to deal with the conflict that is fueling an energy and inflation crisis here. So a Prime Minister during a tumultuous time, a gifted campaigner brought down by his own conduct in office. Ben Wright, BBC News, Westminster.
Well, we will have more from here in Downing Street in the next few minutes, but for now, I'll hand you back to Ben in the studio.
Jane, thank you very much indeed. Police in Canada are hunting 2 men accused of stabbing 10 people to death and wounding 15 others in the province of Saskatchewan. It's one of the worst mass killings in Canadian history. Some of the victims appear to have been targeted deliberately, others randomly. Canadian police have put 3 provinces on alert as they search for the killers. Gareth Barlow reports.
The scale of the manhunt is almost unfathomable. After a mass stabbing spree in 13 locations, Canadian police have issued a dangerous persons alert across an area almost half the size of Europe. The warning comes after the attacks in the remote, sparsely populated Indigenous community, James Smith Cree Nation, and the nearby village of Weldon. A local state of emergency is in force. Residents have been told not to leave their homes, and roadblocks have been set up across the region, with the suspects considered armed and dangerous.
Let me be clear. We are still looking for the 2 suspects. We are asking residents across Saskatchewan and our neighbouring provinces to be vigilant. At this stage in our investigation, we believe some of the victims have been targeted by the suspect and others have been attacked randomly.
Police have named Damien Sanderson and Miles Sanderson, whose relationship is unknown, as suspects behind the stabbings. A vehicle linked to them was last seen in the city of Regina, 200 miles south of where the attacks took place. But their current location, along with any possible motive, remains unclear. Gareth Barlow, BBC News.
Here, police are questioning a 4th man in connection with the killing of 9-year-old Olivia Pratt-Corbell in Liverpool. A 34-year-old was arrested yesterday evening on suspicion of assisting an offender after he was stopped by officers on the M42 in Warwickshire. From today, millions of people in England and Scotland will be invited for their autumn COVID booster vaccine. Care home residents will be first in line for the jab, as the NHS predicts a resurgence of COVID and flu this winter. Wales has already started offering boosters, while the rollout will begin in Northern Ireland in 2 weeks' time. OK, let's go back now to Jane in Downing Street.
Ben, thank you. And so now we know who will be moving in here, 10 Downing Street, tomorrow. Liz Truss will be the new Prime Minister. Let's just get some closing thoughts from our Deputy Political Editor, Vicky Young. So Liz Truss, up until now Foreign Secretary, but I think fair to say still not perhaps hugely known amongst the populace at large. What sort of tone, what sort of approach do you think we're going to see now?
Well, having spoken to lots of her friends over the last few days, she, and we heard it in her speech, didn't we, talking about delivery. She will want to come in here and very quickly make announcements, of course, about the energy crisis. They've been working on a plan. We don't know the details yet, but there will be help. She talked about tax cuts. Now, that's pretty controversial. Lots in her own party don't think that it's the time for that. Her friends say she's well organised, that she will come in here, she will run a tight ship, certainly more organised than her predecessor. They think that will be a big change. Everyone talks about how hard-working she is. On the negative side, if 2 years ago you'd said to lots of her colleagues she was going to be Prime Minister, some of them would have been absolutely appalled. Remember, she has not got the backing of lots of her own MPs. She got, what, 57% of the vote of the party members? Even Ian Duncan Smith got more than that. So she's going to have a lot of work to do to bring the party together. And some people think she's just too abrasive, that she's too divisive to do that. One said to me, she's just plain odd. But her friends, of course, will say, look, she can deliver. She knows what she wants to do. She's had a long philosophy of being really to the right of the party, wanting tax cuts, a free marketeer. But lots will wonder, is this the time for that? And can she really come in with all the challenges that she faces and make the difference that she wants to make?
We will see. Thank you very much, Vicky Young. There's lots more analysis and background information on the BBC News website, of course, bbc.co.uk/news, and that's all on the BBC News app as well. Right now, though, just as it starts to rain here in Downing Street, let's take a look at the weather prospects wherever you are in the country. Let's get those from Darren Bett.
Thank you very much, Jane. Well, many parts of the country are going to be dry through the rest of today. Over the weekend, we saw some huge differences, much wetter in the west, where there was about 4 inches of rain at Dartmoor, close to an area of low pressure. For some eastern parts of England, there was no rain at all over the weekend and temperatures reached 26 degrees. There was some rain overnight last night, even across eastern areas, a lot of thunderstorms as well. Over 36,000 lightning strikes in the UK last night. And through the rest of today into the early hours of tomorrow, this is the area at greatest risk of some more thunderstorms, some lightning and some heavy rain as well. There could be 1 or 2 storms around elsewhere too. This was the rain that we had last night. It's clearing away from northern parts of Scotland, but if we look at what's happening here in the south, not just at Downing Street, we're starting to see some rain, and those showers will push their way northwards into more of Wales and towards the Midlands as well. But some warm sunshine ahead of that, particularly across northern England. Temperatures around Yorkshire, Lincolnshire could reach 26, maybe even 27 Celsius, and it's warm in the sunshine for much of Scotland and Northern Ireland. But this rain that's developing in the south will turn heavy and thundery and then march its way on those southerly winds northwards up towards Scotland and for a while affecting Northern Ireland. Clearer skies will follow to the south, 1 or 2 mist and fog patches by tomorrow morning, but a warm night, temperatures perhaps no lower than 14 or 15 degrees. The last couple of nights we've been seeing the northern lights in the far north of Scotland, but tonight the aurora activity is much reduced and there could be quite a bit of cloud around as well. And there may well be some further showers continuing throughout tomorrow across many parts of Scotland for a while in the far north of England. And then we've got this drier weather with some sunshine, but more rain sweeping up on stronger winds from the southwest, pushing into Wales, the Midlands and across the southeast of England. So tomorrow, not quite as warm as today. Top temperatures probably 23, maybe even 24 degrees in East Anglia. The main driving force of the weather over the weekend and through the rest of this week is that area of low pressure. It's moving from the west towards the east, right over the UK, and it's going to cut off that supply of warmer air as well and bring us more rain. There'll be some sunshine around on Wednesday, but we're going to find these showers, heavy and thundery, developing more widely through the day, and as a result those temperatures will be lower again. So typically on Wednesday 20 or 21 Celsius. And really through the rest of the week we're going to find some further heavy, potentially thundery downpours, particularly here on Thursday, perhaps not quite so wet though on Friday. That's it from me. Back to you, Jane.
Darren, thank you very much. So on a very busy day here at Westminster, we now know who the country's next Prime Minister will be. Liz Truss will formally become Prime Minister tomorrow, and we will see her here in this street making her first public statements. That is it from the BBC News at 1. Goodbye from the team here on BBC One. We will join our news teams now, wherever you are. Bye-bye.